Have you ever pondered how the Amish achieve such flourishing, productive gardens without the aid of modern implements or chemicals? Their success is rooted in time-honored techniques passed down through generations. These are straightforward natural methods that genuinely yield remarkable results. These 20 Amish gardening secrets could potentially transform your approach to cultivation indefinitely. The Three Sisters Planting Method. For generations, Amish cultivators have depended on an astute planting strategy adopted from Native American customs. The Three Sisters method combines corn, beans, and squash in an ideal symbiotic relationship where each plant assists the others in flourishing. The procedure commences with constructing small soil mounds approximately 4 feet apart. Corn seeds are sown in the center once the soil warms to a minimum of 60 degrees. After the corn stalks attain a height of 5 inches, bean seeds are planted in a circular pattern around them. The beans utilize the corn stalks as natural supports for climbing, while their roots fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, transforming it into fertilizer that nourishes the corn. Roughly a week later, squash seeds complete the trio, planted around the periphery of each mound. Their wide leaves spread across the earth, forming a living mulch that suppresses weeds and conserves soil moisture. This technique simultaneously resolves multiple gardening challenges, doing away with the necessity for trellises, diminishing weeding and watering demands, and offering natural pest deterrents. Gardens employing this method typically produce 20% more food from an equivalent area. For optimal outcomes, plant 4 corn seeds in a square formation, 6 bean seeds in a circle surrounding them, and 3 to 4 squash seeds at the mound's boundary. Traditional varieties are particularly effective: Stahl's evergreen corn, Kentucky wonder pole beans, and Boston marrow squash. Moon phase gardening. In Amish regions, farmers consult the lunar phase prior to planting. This customary system is founded on centuries of observation and adheres to a basic tenet: the moon's gravitational force influences water universally on Earth. During the waxing moon, as it grows from new to full, this pull draws moisture upward. During the waning moon, as it shrinks from full to new, the pull lessens, directing energy downward into the roots. Vegetables that yield their produce above ground are planted during the waxing moon, when the increasing gravitational pull fosters upward growth. Root crops such as potatoes and carrots are sown during the waning moon, when energy is concentrated below the soil line. The second quarter, just preceding the full moon, promotes maximum leaf development, ideal for spinach and herbs. The first quarter is excellent for crops that produce seeds outside their fruits, like beans. Numerous gardeners who follow this traditional wisdom report that seeds planted during suitable moon phases germinate more rapidly and yield greater harvests. You only require a fundamental calendar displaying moon phases to attempt this method yourself. As one Amish elder elucidated, plants inherently know the optimal time to grow. The moon informs them. We merely need to heed the same guidance. Natural pest control using companion plants. Amish gardens are characterized by flowers interspersed with vegetables, herbs sprouting between rows of cabbage, and marigolds bordering everything. This is a sophisticated pest management system that utilizes nature's own chemistry instead of sprays and poisons. The foundation of this system is companion planting, which involves positioning specific plants together for their mutual advantages. Marigolds emit compounds through their roots that deter nematodes and other soil pests, while their potent fragrance conceals the chemical signals that pests use to locate their preferred plants. A border of marigolds around a garden can reduce pest damage by half. Nasturtiums lure aphids away from vegetables. Basil enhances the flavor of tomatoes while repelling hornworms. And dill attracts beneficial wasps that prey on caterpillars. Amish farmers establish insectary strips, which are dedicated zones of flowering plants such as fennel, cosmos, and zinnias that draw beneficial insects. A single ladybug can consume up to 5,000 aphids during its lifespan. Studies indicate that companion-planted plots sustain 60% less pest damage than conventional gardens, while simultaneously supporting 3 times more species of beneficial insects. Amish compost tea recipe. When Amish farmers aim to enhance their gardens, they concoct compost tea, a liquid marvel that delivers nutrients and beneficial microorganisms directly to plants. The procedure begins with high-grade compost that is at least 6 months old. One places approximately 5 lbs of finished compost into a large breathable sack, an old pillowcase serves well, and submerges it in a 5-gallon bucket of clean water. If using tap water, it should be left uncovered for 24 hours beforehand to allow chlorine to dissipate. 3 tablespoons of unsulfured molasses are added to nourish beneficial bacteria. For aeration, Amish gardeners traditionally agitated the mixture several times daily, but an aquarium pump can provide continuous bubbling. After steeping for 24 to 36 hours, the tea should acquire a pleasant earthy aroma and a rich brown hue. The solids are strained out, and the liquid is diluted until it resembles weak coffee before application. Gardens treated with compost tea frequently exhibit improved plant vitality and fewer disease issues. The microscopic workforce colonizes plant surfaces, displacing disease organisms while decomposing nutrients into forms plants can readily absorb. Unlike chemical fertilizers that foster dependency, compost tea fortifies plants' natural systems. Succession planting calendar. Amish farmers employ succession planting to ensure their tables remain laden throughout the entire season, transforming gardens into continuous food production facilities by staggering crops over the growing period. As one crop concludes its cycle, another is already maturing to replace it. Early spring lettuces are succeeded by summer beans, which in turn give way to fall spinach, all within the same garden plot. This strategy can double or even triple one's harvest from the identical square footage. A characteristic Amish succession plan commences with cool weather crops like peas, radishes, and spring lettuce, planted as soon as the soil is workable. Fast-maturing radishes might be harvested in merely 25 days, vacating spots for heat-tolerant plants such as tomatoes. When summer beans are finished, fall carrots succeed them. Quick-growing crops assume special roles in this progression. Radishes reach maturity in under a month, rendering them ideal fillers between slower-developing crops. Leaf lettuce can be harvested just 45 days post-planting, with new seeds sown every 2 weeks for a continuous supply of salads. Bush beans can be planted in succession every 3 weeks from spring through midsummer. A traditional single-planting garden might yield 300 lbs of produce per season, whereas effective succession planting can generate 800 lbs or more from the equivalent area. Amish gardeners maintain records of frost dates, tailoring their succession schedules accordingly. The sole product we will ever endorse on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, an experienced prepper, concerning 126 superfoods and preservation techniques from periods of crisis like the Great Depression and wartime, which are impossible to locate elsewhere. We chose to promote his book because we represent the final generation capable of imparting these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be regrettable to witness this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods for surviving crises vanish. You can also discover a book about herbal remedies by Nicole Apelian in their store. If you are viewing this on television, you can search for our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. Trench composting. The Amish trench composting technique transforms kitchen remnants directly into garden treasure without the need for large compost heaps or elaborate bins. One simply excavates a trench between rows of growing plants or in areas designated for planting next season, approximately 12 inches deep and 12 inches wide. This trench is filled with kitchen scraps, garden refuse, coffee grounds, eggshells, and other organic materials. It is then covered with a few inches of soil. Soil organisms decompose the buried materials precisely where plants can utilize them. By the time roots extend into the area, they discover a nutrient-rich feeding zone. This method concurrently addresses multiple garden requirements, disposing of kitchen waste, enhancing soil fertility, and boosting water retention in a single step. Amish gardeners frequently dig trenches in the fall to be filled throughout the winter. By the spring planting season, everything has decomposed into fertile soil. Some families rotate trenches through their garden over a 3-year cycle, guaranteeing that the entire growing area benefits from this profound soil enhancement. Garden plots utilizing trench composting for 3 years demonstrated a 40% greater organic matter content compared to untreated soil. Vertical growing structures from natural materials. Amish gardens showcase plants ascending upward instead of spreading outward. Beans climbing on handcrafted trellises, cucumbers scaling simple wooden frames, and tomatoes aspiring skyward on robust cages fashioned from tree branches. This space-conserving technique significantly boosts harvests from confined areas. Amish gardeners construct vertical growing supports using materials readily available on their farms. Young saplings are woven into bean teepees, and fallen branches are repurposed as tomato cages. A cucumber plant permitted to sprawl horizontally might occupy 12 square feet of garden space, but when grown vertically, it requires merely 2 square feet, a 600% improvement in space efficiency. Pole beans cultivated vertically yield approximately 3 times more beans than bush varieties within the same footprint. A typical Amish bean trellis starts with 7-foot-tall posts spaced about 8 feet apart. Smaller branches are interwoven horizontally between these posts to form a natural ladder for climbing plants. For cucumbers, A-frame structures are most effective, allowing fruits to hang downward for convenient picking. Beyond space conservation, vegetables grown vertically benefit from improved air circulation, which reduces fungal diseases by up to 65% compared to ground-grown crops. Fruits remain cleaner and are simpler to harvest, and pollinators can access flowers more readily. Natural soil testing methods. Amish gardeners employ straightforward techniques to discern their soil's requirements without resorting to chemical tests or costly kits. The jar test ascertains soil type. One fills a clear jar 1/3 full with garden soil, adds water until nearly full, and then shakes it vigorously. After allowing it to settle for 24 hours, sand particles will precipitate first, creating the bottom layer, followed by silt, with clay forming the uppermost layer. The relative proportion of each indicates whether one has sandy soil, clay soil, or the coveted loamy balance. Earthworm counting serves as another gauge. One digs a hole 1 foot square and 1 foot deep, then counts the worms. Fewer than 3 suggests poor soil necessitating organic matter, whereas 10 or more signifies healthy, fertile soil. Amish farmers strive for at least 15 worms per square foot. For pH testing, Amish gardeners utilize vinegar and baking soda. 2 soil samples are placed on separate plates. If the soil effervesces when vinegar is added, it is alkaline, pH above 7. If it fizzes when baking soda mixed with water is introduced, it is acidic, pH below 7. No reaction to either indicates neutral soil. Plant indicators also inform soil management. An abundance of chickweed suggests rich, fertile soil. Sorrel or plantain points to acidic conditions. And dandelions indicate alkaline soil with a potential calcium deficiency. The decomposition test evaluates biological activity. A cotton underwear patch is buried 3 inches deep in the garden soil and exhumed after 2 months. In biologically active soil, the cotton will be considerably decomposed. Amish gardens typically decompose cotton completely within 60 days. Root cellar storage techniques. Amish families savor fresh-tasting vegetables throughout the winter by employing root cellar methods that preserve garden harvests for months, relying solely on meticulous temperature regulation and appropriate storage containers. The optimal root cellar maintains temperatures between 32 degrees and 40 degrees, just above freezing, but cool enough to retard food decay. Subterranean spaces naturally sustain these temperatures, but unheated basements, garages, or well-insulated outdoor containers can function nearly as effectively. Different vegetables necessitate varying conditions. Root crops remain crisp for up to 6 months when interred in slightly damp sand within wooden crates. Potatoes are stored in absolute darkness to prevent greening, using paper bags or burlap sacks that permit just enough air circulation to avert rot. Humidity is as crucial as temperature. Winter squash and pumpkins favor drier conditions, around 50% to 60% humidity, while root vegetables require moister air, around 85% to 95%. Amish gardeners establish microenvironments within their storage areas, using simple materials like lidded clay pots for roots and open shelves for garlic and onions. Proper preparation prior to storage significantly influences outcomes. The Amish never wash root vegetables before storing them. They merely brush off loose soil and trim tops to 1 inch. That thin layer of garden soil actually safeguards against bacteria. They position onions and apples far apart because gases released by apples accelerate onion sprouting, store cabbage upside down with roots attached, and wrap individual fruits in newspaper to inhibit the spread of rot. One converted closet beneath a stairway can store sufficient root vegetables to sustain a family of 4 for 3 months, with no freezer or canning necessary. Natural weed barriers. Amish cultivators dedicate little time to pulling weeds, thanks to natural weed barriers that halt undesirable plants before they emerge, while simultaneously enhancing the soil. Newspaper serves as the foundation, with layers of plain black and white newsprint, 6 to 8 sheets thick, laid directly on garden soil around established plants or in pathways. When moistened, these papers adhere to the soil's contours. The Amish then cover this layer with organic materials such as straw, leaves, or grass clippings, fashioning a 2-part barrier that obstructs light from reaching weed seeds while gradually decomposing into rich humus. Unlike plastic barriers that ultimately end up in landfills, these natural materials nourish the soil as they break down. A 3-inch layer of newspaper covered with 4 inches of straw can suppress weeds for an entire growing season while contributing valuable organic matter. Amish gardeners apply their barriers early in the season once the soil has warmed, but before weed seeds germinate, and immediately following rain when the soil is moist. For permanent pathways, materials like cardboard topped with wood chips create weed-free zones that endure for years. These natural barriers provide benefits beyond weed control. They regulate soil temperature, conserve moisture, reducing watering needs by up to 50%, and create an ideal habitat for earthworms, which improve soil structure. Hand tool efficiency techniques. If one visits an Amish garden, one will not hear the din of rototillers or leaf blowers, but rather the tranquil sounds of efficient hand tools wielded with remarkable proficiency. These gardeners achieve impressive outcomes utilizing simple implements and ingenious techniques. The unassuming hoe assumes a central role in weed control, though not employed as most gardeners might imagine. Instead of chopping downwards, Amish gardeners use a brief, horizontal stroke that slices just beneath the soil surface. This method, known as scuffling, severs weed roots without disturbing soil structure or bringing new weed seeds to the surface. A skilled gardener can clear 1,000 square feet in under an hour. Tool maintenance dramatically elevates performance. Amish gardeners sharpen their hoe edges to razor keenness, rendering the cutting of tough weeds effortless. They apply linseed oil to wooden handles each spring, ensuring smooth operation devoid of splinters. A properly maintained garden hoe can endure for 50 years or more with such care. Body mechanics make substantial differences in efficiency and comfort. Amish gardeners utilize their entire bodies, not merely their arms. A digging fork penetrates the soil with the weight of the whole body behind it. Shoveling becomes a fluid motion, where the legs perform most of the labor while the back remains straight. These techniques enable older gardeners to work comfortably for hours without experiencing back pain. Garden tool selection demonstrates remarkable thoughtfulness. Long-handled tools are precisely matched to the user's height. The handle should reach between the chin and nose when one is standing erect. The garden fork ranks as perhaps the most undervalued tool in the Amish arsenal. Unlike shovels, which sever soil structure, forks gently lift and separate, preserving the natural layers. A quality garden fork can aerate soil, harvest root crops, turn compost, and even serve as a weeding implement. Tool selection adheres to the right tool for the job philosophy. Narrow-bladed spades create clean edges between garden beds and lawns. Stirrup hoes excel for weeding between closely spaced plants. Draw hoes are better suited for forming furrows. Every tool fulfills specific purposes, rather than attempting to make one tool perform all tasks. Natural seed starting mixtures. Amish communities have perfected homemade seed starting mixtures over generations. The foundation commences with soil that has been meticulously screened to eliminate sticks, stones, and clumps. This soil, however, is not sourced from the garden. It originates from the woods. Forest soil naturally harbors beneficial fungi known as mycorrhizae, which assist seedling roots in absorbing nutrients more efficiently. To this woodland soil, Amish gardeners incorporate equal parts well-aged compost that has been screened to a fine consistency. This furnishes gentle nutrition without harsh salts that can impair delicate seedlings. The compost is thoroughly blended with coarse builder's sand, which facilitates proper drainage. The genuine secret component is crushed charcoal. Long before biochar gained prominence as a gardening buzzword, Amish growers recognized that small fragments of charcoal from their wood stoves aided in preventing fungal diseases while enhancing soil structure. They crush it finely and add approximately 1 part charcoal to 8 parts of their soil mixture. University studies comparing germination rates discovered that seeds in traditional Amish mixtures sprouted just as rapidly as those in commercial preparations, but exhibited 25% stronger root development during the critical initial weeks. The containers employed for starting seeds exemplify Amish resourcefulness. Hollowed-out half-eggshells make ideal biodegradable seed pots. Newspaper folded into small cups functions splendidly and can be planted directly into garden soil. Even emptied citrus halves serve as excellent starter pots. Instead of purchasing heating mats, Amish growers position seed trays atop wood stoves or near kitchen ranges. For growing light, south-facing windows with white-painted surroundings maximize natural sunlight reflection. While commercial organic seed starting mix costs roughly $8 to $12 per gallon, the Amish homemade version costs mere pennies, a 90% savings. Season extension without electricity. Frost dates do not curtail Amish growing seasons. While most gardeners capitulate to winter's advance, these skilled cultivators employ ingenious non-electric methods to harvest fresh vegetables weeks or even months beyond typical growing periods. More progressive Amish groups have adopted cold frames, simple boxes with transparent tops that establish protected microclimates. These structures, fashioned from reclaimed lumber and old windows, face south for optimal sun exposure. Inside these frames, soil temperatures stay 10 to 15 degrees warmer than outside. More traditional Amish communities depend on methods requiring no structures whatsoever. Deep mulching stands as their principal technique, with substantial layers of straw covering hardy greens and root vegetables. This approach shields plants down to 25 degrees while simultaneously improving soil quality. Our forebears lacked fancy glass enclosures, and neither do we, one elderly gardener quipped, just ample straw and patience. Timing plays an indispensable role in season extension. Fall gardens are planted precisely 12 weeks before the first anticipated frost, ensuring crops attain maturity just as growth decelerates with cooling temperatures. Plant selection constitutes another cornerstone of the Amish strategy. Traditional communities have dedicated generations to developing and preserving seeds from varieties that naturally endure temperature extremes. Many Amish gardeners utilize a technique called banking, which involves piling soil or mulch around cold-hardy plants like kale and collards to insulate their stems and roots. This straightforward method permits the harvesting of fresh greens well into December in northern climes. South-facing stone walls are present in many Amish gardens, serving as thermal masses that absorb daytime heat and release it gradually overnight. Rather than combating nature with technology, Amish gardeners collaborate with natural cycles and local conditions. Their methods incur almost no cost, demand minimal maintenance, and frequently enhance soil fertility. By employing these various techniques, Amish families typically harvest fresh produce 8 to 10 weeks longer than conventional gardeners. Some particularly adept growers manage to harvest cold, hardy greens throughout nearly the entire winter, even in northern climates. Heirloom Seed-Saving Protocol. Seeds embody future food security, and no one comprehends this better than Amish farmers who have conserved countless vegetable varieties. Their meticulous seed-saving practices guarantee not merely survival, but also the continual enhancement of crops suited to their particular growing conditions. Selecting the appropriate plants for seed saving commences long before harvest. Throughout the growing season, Amish gardeners designate exceptional performers with colored twine. Plants that germinate earliest, naturally resist disease, produce abundantly, or possess a particularly sweet taste. These genetic champions earn the distinction of transmitting their traits to succeeding generations. The selection process persists year after year, gradually developing varieties perfectly adapted to local soils, climatic conditions, and growing challenges specific to each community. Harvesting at the correct time is paramount for seed viability. Unlike vegetables picked for consumption, seed crops remain on plants for a much longer duration. Tomatoes achieve full ripeness and color before collection. Bean and pea pods dry completely on the vine. Lettuce grows far beyond its edible stage until it sends up a seed stalk. Weather awareness plays a crucial role, with Amish gardeners harvesting during the driest parts of the day to prevent moisture-related complications with seed storage. The cleaning procedure for each seed type adheres to specific traditional methods. Tomato seeds ferment in their own juices for 3 days, a process that naturally dissolves the gel coating, inhibiting germination. Bean and pea seeds dry within their pods until they rattle when shaken. Squash seeds are scooped out and washed, then dried on screens in shaded, breezy locations. Proper drying ensures seeds attain optimal moisture levels, dry enough to prevent mold, but not over-dried, which could impair embryo viability. Preventing cross-pollination necessitates an understanding of plant reproduction. Amish gardeners maintain isolation distances between varieties that might interbreed. Different squash varieties are grown at opposite ends of the property. Only one variety of corn is cultivated each season, or tassels are carefully bagged to control pollination. For highly cross-pollinating crops, families often coordinate with neighbors, each growing just one variety to prevent undesired hybridization. Storage methods preserve seed viability for years, or even decades. Small paper envelopes contain individual varieties, meticulously labeled with the type, year collected, and any special notes regarding the parent plants. These envelopes are then placed into glass jars with tight-fitting lids, sometimes accompanied by a small packet of powdered milk to absorb moisture. The jars are stored in cool, dark locations like root cellars, where temperatures remain stable year-round. Some Amish communities maintain seed varieties brought to America by their ancestors over 300 years ago, living links to their European heritage. These seeds carry not only genetic information, but also cultural patrimony, with stories and growing advice passed down alongside the physical seeds themselves. Water conservation systems. If one steps onto an Amish farm, one will discover ingenious water conservation systems that operate without electricity or pressurized plumbing, methods that are increasingly pertinent as water restrictions become widespread globally. Rainwater harvesting constitutes the bedrock of Amish water conservation. A single 1-inch rainfall on a modest 1,000 square foot roof yields over 600 gallons of water. Amish communities capture this resource using wide gutters connected to large wooden barrels or cisterns positioned at strategic elevations around garden areas. The barrels showcase traditional woodworking skills, with cedar or cypress staves carefully fitted to create watertight storage that endures for decades. The slight natural antiseptic properties of these woods assist in keeping stored water fresh. A fine mesh screen covers the top, preventing mosquito breeding. Gravity-fed irrigation demonstrates remarkable ingenuity. A series of gradually descending barrels generates water pressure without pumps. Small wooden spigots regulate flow into main channels, with smaller side channels directing water precisely where required. These irrigation paths are dug slightly deeper each year, eventually forming permanent, water-efficient roots throughout the garden. Rather than frequent shallow watering, Amish gardeners water deeply but infrequently, typically just once weekly, unless during extreme drought. This practice encourages plants to develop deeper root systems that access moisture far beneath the soil surface. Plants watered in this manner exhibit significantly better drought resistance. For newly transplanted seedlings, Amish gardeners often utilize ollas, unglazed clay pots buried in the soil with only their necks protruding. Filled with water, these pots slowly release moisture directly to plant roots over several days. This ancient technique reduces water usage by up to 70% compared to surface watering. During the severe drought of 2012, when many conventional farms necessitated emergency irrigation, Amish gardens employing these traditional methods sustained productivity while using merely one-third the water of neighboring properties. Their deep-rooted mulched plants continued producing despite receiving rainfall amounts 60% below normal. Natural fungal disease prevention. When a white powder begins to coat squash leaves or black spots manifest on tomatoes, many gardeners resort to fungicide sprays. However, if one visits an Amish garden during a humid summer, one will observe remarkably few fungal issues, despite their commitment to chemical-free cultivation methods. The foundation commences with adequate spacing between plants. Amish growers afford each plant ample room. Tomato plants might stand 3 feet apart instead of the frequently recommended 18 inches. This generous spacing permits continuous airflow that rapidly dries leaves after rain or morning dew, dramatically lessening conditions conducive to fungal spore germination. By watering exclusively in the early morning, plants have the entire day to dry before evening. Even more significantly, Amish gardeners water at soil level rather than overhead, thereby keeping foliage completely dry. For larger gardens, simple irrigation channels deliver water directly to roots without wetting leaves at all. Milk spray stands as perhaps the most astonishing weapon against powdery mildew and other fungal problems. A solution of 1 part milk to 9 parts water sprayed on plant leaves weekly prevents many common fungal infections. University studies have corroborated that this folk remedy performs as effectively as commercial fungicides in numerous instances, demonstrating a 90% reduction in powdery mildew compared to untreated plants. Proper pruning affords additional protection against fungal issues. Amish gardeners remove the lowest branches from tomatoes and other vining crops, enhancing air circulation around the base of plants. They also thin inner branches, creating a more open structure that allows sunlight to penetrate all parts of the plant. Companion planting contributes substantially to fungal resistance. Strongly aromatic herbs like oregano, thyme, and rosemary are planted throughout vegetable gardens. Their natural antifungal compounds create invisible zones of protection. Research has indicated that gardens with aromatic herbs interspersed throughout experience approximately 30% fewer fungal disease outbreaks. The rich biologically active soils in Amish gardens foster plants with inherent disease resistance. The microscopic fungi in healthy soil establish beneficial relationships with plant roots, sometimes even inducing natural disease resistance in the plants themselves. Healthy soil cultivates healthy plants, and healthy plants seldom fall ill. One elderly Amish gardener elucidated weather prediction using plant behavior. Long before television meteorologists and smartphone applications, Amish gardeners cultivated a remarkable ability, interpreting weather changes through plant behavior. This knowledge furnishes surprisingly accurate short-term forecasts, utilizing nothing more than careful observation. Pine cones function as natural hygrometers, opening in dry conditions and closing when humidity rises prior to rain. By keeping several pine cones visible from garden areas, Amish growers obtain continuous weather updates. Morning glory flowers close up tightly before rain arrives, often a full day preceding stormy weather. The timing of this closure helps predict when rain will materialize. Flowers closing early in the morning usually indicate afternoon rain, while midday closure suggests evening precipitation. Dandelions behave similarly, closing their seed heads when humidity increases before precipitation. A field of dandelions with closed seed heads almost certainly foretells rain within 24 hours. For frost prediction, chickweed flowers close completely, clover leaves fold upward, and morning glories remain closed all day when frost looms within 24 hours. Leaf positioning reveals much about impending conditions. Many plants turn their leaves upside down before rain, exposing the more absorbent undersides. Maple trees exhibit this behavior visibly, with entire canopies appearing to flip before significant rainfall. Vegetable garden plants like beans often curl their leaves ahead of extreme heat. Studies comparing traditional weather prediction methods with modern forecasting found that plant indicators correctly predicted rain within a 24-hour period, approximately 85% of the time, sometimes surpassing local weather reports for specific microclimates. Plants have far more at stake in weather prediction than we do, an elder Amish gardener explained. Their very survival hinges on anticipating what is forthcoming. Animal integration in garden systems. Chickens pecking amidst cabbage rows, rabbits housed directly above growing beds, ducks patrolling for slugs in the strawberry patch. This is not garden disarray. It is a meticulously orchestrated system wherein animals become indispensable garden collaborators rather than pests to be excluded. Amish communities have refined these integrated approaches over generations, creating gardens that yield both plant and animal harvests from the same space. The mobile chicken tractor represents a signature innovation in many Amish gardens. These lightweight, floorless pens are relocated daily across garden beds, permitting chickens to clear crop residue, consume weed seeds and insect pests, and deposit valuable fertilizer, all while preventing the birds from damaging current crops. The timing fosters perfect synergy. After pea or bean harvests conclude, chickens are introduced to clear the area, preparing it for the subsequent planting, while deriving up to 30% of their own sustenance from leftover crops and insects. The Chicken Garden Partnership extends beyond tidying up spent crops. Many Amish gardeners synchronize their garden rotations with chicken placements, allowing birds to occupy an area for several weeks prior to planting. During this preparatory period, chickens consume weed seeds, insect eggs, and larvae, while their scratching naturally tills the soil surface. The outcomes prove remarkable. Gardens prepared in this manner exhibit 85% fewer weed problems and significantly diminished pest pressure compared to conventionally prepared beds. Rabbits are integrated into the system with equally astute arrangements. Hutches positioned over compost piles enable rabbit droppings to fall directly onto compost materials, generating extraordinarily rich fertilizer without any additional labor. The heat from the composting materials below keeps rabbits warmer in winter, while creating a continual supply of finished compost for garden beds. This arrangement establishes a perfect closed-loop system. Garden scraps feed rabbits, rabbits produce manure for compost, and compost nourishes the next garden cycle. Ducks fulfill specialized pest control functions that even chickens cannot replicate. Their predilection for slugs and snails makes them ideal partners for moisture-loving crops susceptible to these pests. Merely 2 ducks can clear slugs from a 2,000-square-foot garden in a single season, obviating the need for slug baits or traps. Unlike chickens, ducks will not scratch up young seedlings, allowing them to patrol gardens with growing crops. One Amish gardener asserted his duck team works harder than I do, never complains, and only requests a small pond as payment. Bees complete the animal integration framework, with hives positioned to maximize pollination of fruit trees and vegetables. Unlike modern gardens that might depend on a single distant beehive, Amish gardens often incorporate multiple small hives distributed throughout the growing area. This strategy enhances fruit set by up to 40% compared to gardens relying solely on wild pollinators, while also yielding honey as a valuable secondary crop. Timing and meticulous management ensure these animal systems function seamlessly. Chickens traverse garden areas on carefully planned schedules that prevent harm to growing crops. Ducks are introduced to gardens early in the morning when slugs are most active, then return to their nighttime housing before they can become problematic. Rabbit manure is properly aged before application to prevent nitrogen burn on sensitive plants. The physical design of Amish gardens frequently accommodates this animal integration from the outset. Wide paths between beds facilitate easy movement of mobile animal housing. Fencing creates temporary grazing zones where animals can perform their beneficial work while remaining clear of areas with delicate crops. Garden layout incorporates consideration for moving animals efficiently without trampling plants or generating excessive labor. Food preservation without modern appliances. When harvest season yields more tomatoes, beans, and zucchini than anyone could conceivably consume, modern gardeners often resort to freezers or electric dehydrators. In Amish kitchens, however, the abundance is preserved through methods that have scarcely changed over centuries, techniques that function without a single watt of electricity. Sun-drying represents perhaps the most ancient preservation method still employed in Amish communities. Thinly sliced fruits and vegetables arranged on clean screens, dry naturally in the summer sun, concentrating flavors while eliminating moisture that would otherwise lead to spoilage. This entirely passive, solar-powered approach creates natural temperature fluctuations that many Amish gardeners believe enhance flavor development compared to constant temperature drying methods. For damp or overcast climates, passive drying cabinets, situated near already operating wood-burning stoves or kitchen ranges, provide consistent drying environments. These simple wooden boxes with mesh shelves capture ambient heat that would otherwise be squandered, allowing warm air to circulate around food items. No additional fuel or heat sources are required. The cabinets simply make efficient use of heat already being generated for cooking or home heating. A surprising fact about this method: foods dried at these lower, natural temperatures retain up to 90% of their original nutritional value, compared to just 60% retained during high-temperature artificial drying. Salt preservation forms another cornerstone of the Amish food storage system. Vegetables like green beans undergo lacto-fermentation in salt brine, transforming them into pickled products that endure for months without refrigeration. This process not only preserves the vegetables but also augments their nutritional profile, creating beneficial probiotics akin to those in yogurt. String beans preserved in this manner become dilly beans, crunchy, tangy delicacies that provide garden freshness even in the depths of winter. Cold storage organization in Amish root cellars adheres to precise temperature zoning principles. The bottom shelves, where temperatures remain coolest, hold root crops such as carrots and beets. Middle shelves accommodate apples and winter squash. The highest shelves, slightly warmer, store onions and garlic. This arrangement maximizes the storage life of each crop type without necessitating any mechanical cooling systems. Traditional recipes passed down through generations preserve garden harvests in delicious, practical ways. Chutneys combine fruits with garden herbs and spices, creating flavorful condiments that enliven winter meals. Herb vinegars capture and preserve the essence of fresh herbs. Fruit butters cook down slowly in wood-fired ovens, concentrating flavors, while the natural sugars act as preservatives. The Amish approach to food preservation emphasizes working in community. Preservation becomes a social event where many hands make light work. One family might lack the labor to process 100 pounds of tomatoes in a day, but several families collaborating transform this daunting task into an enjoyable gathering with lasting benefits for all. Financial considerations reinforce these traditional methods. A typical Amish family saves approximately $200 annually by preserving their own garden produce instead of acquiring commercial alternatives. More importantly, these preserved foods connect them directly to their gardens year-round, maintaining the close relationship with homegrown food even during non-growing seasons. Garden design based on daily routines. The configuration of an Amish garden often perplexes visitors who anticipate neat, symmetrical rows. Instead, they encounter what appears to be a somewhat haphazard arrangement. Herbs near the kitchen entrance, greens in the partial shade of fruit trees, root vegetables in a remote corner. This seemingly informal organization actually embodies sophisticated design predicated on patterns of daily existence. Frequency of harvest dictates the placement of each plant variety. Cooking herbs and salad greens, harvested almost daily, are positioned closest to the kitchen door for convenient access during meal preparation. A step further might be cherry tomatoes and snap peas, items frequently gathered for snacking or rapid side dishes. Progressing outward, the garden transitions to vegetables harvested weekly, then bi-weekly, and ultimately to crops harvested just once per season, such as potatoes or winter squash. This concentric layout around primary walking paths drastically curtails labor over the growing season. By situating high-maintenance crops where they will be observed daily, Amish gardeners naturally monitor for issues while engaged in routine activities. Garden tasks integrate seamlessly into daily life, rather than becoming distinct chores demanding special excursions. The paths themselves disclose astute design considerations. Primary walkways accommodate wheelbarrows, measuring about 3 feet wide. Secondary paths between plant beds narrow to just 18 inches, wide enough for harvesting, but not squandering valuable growing space. These paths often utilize different materials based on frequency of use, with principal paths receiving durable wood chips, while less traveled routes might simply employ straw that decomposes to nourish the soil. Vertical elements are strategically placed to avert casting shadows over sun-loving crops. Trellises for climbing beans or cucumbers stand along northern garden perimeters, where their height will not obstruct light from shorter plants. Corn, which can shade other crops, is planted in blocks on the north side rather than in long rows bisecting the garden. Water sources significantly influence garden layout. Rain barrels or hand pumps occupy central positions, with thirsty crops like tomatoes and cucumbers situated within easy watering range. Drought-tolerant herbs and root vegetables are cultivated in zones farthest from water sources, establishing natural watering zones that align plant needs with human effort. Tool storage reveals particularly considerate placement. Small tool collections, positioned at key garden transitions, eliminate squandered trips to distant sheds. This distributed approach saves countless steps over a growing season. Rest areas, integrated throughout larger gardens, acknowledge the significance of momentary pauses during garden work, transforming potentially wearisome garden chores into pleasant, contemplative activities. These Amish techniques demonstrate that one does not require elaborate tools or chemicals to cultivate an excellent garden. With a few intelligent adjustments, you can grow more, generate less waste, and savor your garden throughout the entire season. I encourage you to attempt a few of these suggestions. You might be astonished by how significantly they improve your gardening experience.